Last season, millions tuned into the Betrayal podcast to hear a shocking story of deception. I'm Andrea Gunning, and now we're sharing an all-new story of betrayal. Justin Rutherford. Doctor, father, family man. It was the perfect cover to hide behind.
Detective Weaver said, "I'm sure you know why we're here." I was like, what in the world is going on?
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the story of how a group of people brought music back to Afghanistan by creating their own version of American Idol. The joy they brought to the nation.
You're free completely. No one is there to destroy you.
The danger they endured.
They said my head should be cut off.
I'm John Legend. Listen to Afghan Star on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
More better.
Hey, I'm Melissa Fumero.
And I'm Stephanie Beatriz. You may know us from television.
9-9.
And now we're here with our very own podcast, More Better with Stephanie and Melissa. Join us as we take on topics like listening to yourself, the challenge of self-care, and making friends as an adult. We're going to share our struggles, we're going to speak to experts, and we're going to share everything we learn with you. Listen to More Better with Stephanie and Melissa on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Amy and T.J. And can you keep a public relationship private? That is what's up on this episode of Amy and T.J. Broke you making that. Oh, you're making a face like what? Before we even get into that, what is your response? Can you, as a public figure in a public relationship that you speak on and put out there publicly, ever have any degree of privacy to it?
I think you should be able to.
Okay.
Correct. It requires the cooperation of other people, which therein lies the problem.
You mean the public? Those
yes.
people? But yes. How everybody's going to argue with you. Wait a minute. You want to put this out there when things are great. Now I want to ask you a question when things aren't so great, and now you want to scream privacy. How are you supposed to balance that or reconcile that?
Yeah, it's tough, but I just don't think that because you make your living in the public eye that somehow you're public property.
There we go. Well, I'm stopping you there. I'm not saying just because you're in the public eye. I'm saying that a part of your being in the public eye is you decide to put your relationship out there publicly, to speak together on a podcast, on an interview,
right,
to be on cover of magazines together. You could say no to that. So why would you then say, hey, I want to be in the public with my relationship until things go bad?
I just think that's human nature. You're sharing joy, right? I mean, I think a lot of times it's not even necessarily manipulative in any way. You're just like sharing your joy, sharing your life. And yes, with that comes then people's interest in your life. I get that. I understand how that works. And then I get that when things are tough and rough and not so great, you don't want to share that. Or maybe in due time you're going to, or you're willing to if you think it could help other people. But I think you still, even if you are sharing your life and sharing your relationship with your curated, social media feed, I get that. I don't think that then entitles everyone to know everything. I just don't. I think there's a way. I think there's a balance to it. And it's a tough balance. I don't know that I have the right answer on how to make that balance make sense. But I think just inherently people have a right to keep some things private, even if they choose to share a lot of their relationship.
That's tough.
I get it.
If you want to announce to everybody that you just got engaged, you want to announce to everybody, these are my bridesmaids. You want to announce to everybody, these are my groomsmen. This is who's coming to the wedding. This is where we're going to be. And then as soon as somebody asks you a question, when there are reports that maybe y'all ain't doing so good, how can you then feel comfortable being offended or telling someone you don't have a right to ask me about the trouble in my relationship? I only have a right to give you the positive and exactly what I want to give you about my relationship.
Well, I don't think that anybody can ask any question, but you also, so they have a right to ask whatever question they want. They have a right to want to know potentially, but you also have a right to not share, and you don't have to give details, and you certainly don't have to. I mean, yeah, who wants to go and say we're getting divorced. We've talked about it. That was part of our problem. That wasn't something that either one of us wanted to do or were ready to do. We would have eventually, because obviously that would have been something that would have needed to be known. But in our time, just because you live a public life and you have a public relationship doesn't mean that you don't need private moments to get through stuff, to figure stuff out. Because sometimes when you're going through it, whether it's divorce or just difficulties of any kind, you don't even know what to say. You don't even really know how you feel. You need some time to figure it out, even in your own head, for your own life, for your own children, before you make it public.
Well, to your point, you sound exactly like the woman we are talking about in this episode, Trista. Trista and Ryan from the first ever season of Bachelorette.
Yes.
So we're talking 20 years ago.
21 years ago, I think.
Okay. So they have been married and have been going strong, have 2 teenagers. That they might, wouldn't you say, you've watched the show a little bit, not a lot, but you watched her season. Would they be the biggest success story in the history of that franchise?
I absolutely think so.
Right?
I had never really watched that franchise from start to finish ever, but I did that year. For whatever reason, I watched The Bachelorette. And we've said this, I'm always rooting for love. And so especially when you see 2 people come together in a very non-conventional way, but in front of everybody, I have been rooting. I've checked in like on her Instagram on them. Like I want to believe that, true love exists and that you can make it work, even if you're in the public eye, even with teenagers, And so I've followed along and been a cheerleader behind the scenes. I
assume then you were disappointed when some of the stuff started creeping out, I guess maybe a week or so ago, or certainly in recent weeks. Her husband, Ryan Sutter. So Ryan was putting out messages that, and again, quote unquote, they were calling them cryptic, but he was speaking as if he had not spoken to his wife, Trista, or he was not in contact with her. That set off some alarm bells to where people thought they were on their way to divorce. Now, when you were seeing all this stuff, were you starting to get concerned?
I was, but I also was a little concerned that he was almost fishing without her. Like, I found that to be a little bit.
He was what?
Like he was putting out cryptic messages. Okay. So he was stirring
Feeding
the pot.
It. Okay.
He was creating the ripples. No one would have known necessarily. I mean, but
keep it to yourself. We wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
But he put it out. Okay.
So okay. I think I was disappointed that he was doing that. Like if you have something to say, I get that. Or if you want to, but it just felt like he was almost poking the bear. Like he was trying to get her to react or even a way to get her to say something.
Oh, I didn't think about it
By putting it out there publicly,
okay.
She would then feel the pressure to say something, do something.
Okay. Now, when you put it that way, I get it.
Okay.
And I want to stop this podcast because that sounds like people who are legitimately going through a relationship, something that makes you do crazy things.
Yeah.
And you get desperate and you try to reach out. And we've all done something stupid to try to get the other person to call us or text or do something out. We've done that. I did not think about it the way
you might like call someone's best friend and just be like, "Hey, what's up?" You just kind of like put the feelers out. Like what's really happening? Wow. What do I not know?
Yeah, I didn't think about it like that.
But it was strange. I mean, that was just my perception. That I just thought it was weird that he was doing that. I mean, it definitely felt deliberate.
Okay, to your point.
Yes, go ahead.
I didn't see this, but to your point, he wrote this on Mother's Day. Quote, "I really wish I could talk to you, ask you how you're doing. How was your day? I'd really like to hear your voice just for a minute. So many times I've called without much to say, not realizing how lucky I was or how much I'd miss the opportunity if it were gone." End quote.
That's not cryptic.
That's not, is it?
That's not cryptic at all. That's she's not returning my phone calls. I mean, that is what that says. And I mean, who am I to judge because it worked?
There's no okay.
She reacted.
Okay, but he had to react to that one because he then writes another post that said he often writes, quote, "without regard for how his post will be interpreted and with absolutely no intent to deceive or mislead anyone. That is the farthest thing from my mind." Now, after reading that, it sounds like some other people might have been writing into him saying the same things you were saying here.
Right.
And then he had to say something.
Yeah, because it seemed like, wait, why can't you just have that private text back and forth? Why do you have to put that out on Mother's Day of all days, too? he was calling her out. I mean, he was trying to say, I miss you, but it was a public cry.
Okay, let me try one more for you.
Okay.
From him again. Quote, Trista is fine. We are fine. We're great. Trista is at a place in life where she is searching a bit. An opportunity presented itself that may help her on that quest. With her family's support, she has taken it. Part of that process means that she is temporarily inaccessible to us. End quote. Now, how do you leave someone alone? How are you asking for privacy? I'm not saying they are necessarily, but that is a lot of public stuff in a few posts that, I mean, what they choosing to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and, right to do it.
I agree. Like, I think in that case, you asked, can you keep things private? Certainly. He chose not to, though. And so then, of course, people are going to conjecture. And I think a lot of well-meaning people, someone like me who really hopes that they're okay and really wants them to be good and wants to believe that they're going to figure it out. But I think it definitely was not cryptic now that I heard you just say it. He was absolutely saying, my wife is not talking to me and I wish she would. And that's tough. And I have to say, do you know how much time it was between when he put those out and when she actually because she just responded on Instagram. And
that was just over the weekend. Right?
Yeah, over the weekend. And I actually liked what she had to say.
She wrote a lot.
She did write a lot, but one of my favorite quotes was just the first one. She said, geez, people, can't a girl have a nervous breakdown, trial, separation, midlife crisis, death, divorce, in peace around here? I mean, she just kind of put
add the smiling and laughing emojis.
Okay. So that I would say is cryptic, because which one is it? Is it none of the above? Is it all of the above? Is it some of the above? Is it A and B and not D? I don't know. But she did at least handle it with a little humor, kind of a wink and a nod. And she put a family photo of them all together, the two of them with their kids. So I don't know if that's a recent photo, if they've been reunited. But yeah, it's tough to ask people to not weigh in when you've literally asked people in a way to weigh in by putting something like that out on social media.
Last season, millions tuned into the Betrayal podcast to hear a shocking story of deception. I'm Andrea Gunning, and now we're sharing an all-new story of betrayal. Stacy thought she had the perfect husband. Doctor, father, family man. It was the perfect cover for Justin Rutherford to hide behind.
They led me into the house, and I mean, it was like a movie. He was sitting at our kitchen table. The cops were guarding him.
Stacy learned how far her husband would go to save himself.
I slept with a loaded gun next to my bed.
He did not just say, I wish he was dead. He actually gave details and explained different scenarios on how to kill him.
He, to me, is scarier than Jeffrey Dahmer.
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When the Taliban banned music in Afghanistan, millions were plunged into silence. Radios were smashed, cassettes burned. You could be beaten or jailed or killed for breaking the rules. And yet, Afghans did it anyway. This is the story of how a group of people brought music back to Afghanistan by creating their own version of American Idol. The danger they endured.
They said my head should be cut off.
The joy they brought to the nation.
You're free completely. No one is there to destroy you.
I'm John Legend. Listen to Afghan Star on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
More better. Hey, I'm Melissa Fumero. And I'm Stephanie Beatriz. You may know us from television.
9.
And now we're here with our very own podcast, More Better with Stephanie and Melissa. We've known each other for thousands of years. And we've been through it all together. And we are totally killing it. We are literally the best. No notes. Life is great. None of that was true. JK. Join us on our excellent adventure as we take on topics like listening to yourself. There were a lot of red flags, and it did take me 8 years to get there, but I got there.
The challenge of self-care. This is important because now you're about to be a mom of 2 kids.
And making friends as an adult. We're going to share our struggles. Just white-knuckling through life, babe. We're going to speak to experts, and we're going to share everything we learn with you. Listen to More Better with Stephanie and Melissa as part of the Michael Duda Podcast Network, available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, here you go. This is what she tells us. I chose myself and betterment, knowing that my stay-at-home mom job and my kids' end of the school year needs were in the best, most capable hands. She, in quote, but she sounds like she did step away and needed to step away to where it was understood that he was going to have to be responsible for everything while she's out of pocket. Now, this look, we all have, a lot of folks who've gone through something now, who've been through something relationship-wise, who listen to this, and you're not speculating. Your heart's hurting. Like, you recognize some things in here, like, wow, those people are going through something. Clearly they choose to put it out publicly, that's on them. But in reading it and diving into it more than the headlines, your heart kind of breaks. Like, wow, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but I'm sorry you feel like you have to do this now in this public way.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of times people are looking for support. Even, it doesn't matter who you are. Whether you're, Ryan Sutter or you're, the guy next door. But sometimes people just want to know they're not alone, or they want other people to know, hey, I'm going through it. And in a way, they're looking for support from the public. And I think maybe that could have been what was going on as well. Like, people want to feel like, especially if he was feeling scared and lonely, and like he wanted to know other people kind of had his back, maybe, or were worried about him and them, and that felt good. I mean, I get that. There is a collective hug. Obviously, there can be some really negative, nasty, awful things going on with social media, but there can also be this feeling of like, I'm not alone. And so maybe that's what he was trying to do.
She continues, we look at Instagram like a digital diary. Most of the time, the world doesn't pay too much attention. This time, her husband, couldn't say anything right. Just about every news outlet picked up on his, quote, cryptic, confusing, attention-seeking, dramatic pictures and captions.
Wow.
To me, they gave me exactly what my words of affirmation, love language needed to get me through some serious self-doubt and fear, and that's all that matters. Wow. She is defending what he did and saying what he did was exactly what she needed. Yeah. We're seeing this all play out. You and I love watching how couples communicate.
Right.
But this is interesting. It's really fascinating to see it.
You know what? That is fascinating, because you know what it was? I heard what he wrote. He was saying, I love you. I miss you. We need you. You're of value to us. We want you back. And that might have been what she needed to hear, because maybe she felt like she and I are the same age. You're doing everything for your kids. You're racing around. She's spent her whole life being their mom and his wife, right, as her full-time job. And so maybe she just felt unappreciated and felt overwhelmed and thought, what have I done with my life? And maybe what he wrote is exactly what she needed to hear. And he did it in a public way so that everyone could see how much he valued and they valued her as a woman, as a wife, as a mom.
That's fascinating. Like, how much value in a public relationship or even a private relationship. Well, I say private in that it's not one that's out there, a celebrity couple, for lack of a better phrase. Like, how much is that needed from day to day from any couple? Because social media now is where if you are not talking about your significant other, what, you're not proud of me?
Oh yeah, birthdays now, anniversaries, you got to write a love letter, like a birthday card to the whole world to see, because it's not good enough if I just give you one privately. We got to put it up there for everyone to see. Okay, it's true. I do that for my girls on birthdays. Oh yeah, and I get that. It's absolutely like, then you feel good, and everyone who says happy birthday to you and says these captions and pictures of the year that you spent with them with different moments, then you take that, put it on your story and say, see how many people said happy birthday to me? Jeez. Like, it's where we are in this world. We're all, there are all versions of it.
Well, you say it's where we are. Is it where we need to just accept where we are, or do we need to do something about it? Because it's either going to continue to go the direction it's going, or we're going to slow it down or maybe back it up, because that sounds to your point, words of affirmation are supposed to be the words I give you, not the words other people hear me give you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you and what you're saying. I will say this. If you're saying something positive about someone in a public way, that's amazing. Like, there's nothing bad about that. Now, needing it, requiring it, getting pissed if it doesn't happen, that's a whole other issue. But I don't think anyone's going to be upset if the person they love tells the world how much they love them on social media. Now, other people might be annoyed by that, might be nauseating to other people.
Wait, to the public or to the person? Like, some people might stop talking about me on social media. I don't like that.
There's that, but also I think it's for me, like, I can only speak for myself. I think it's if it feels untrue, manipulative, like what you do in private is very different. And then in public, you're grandstanding and showboating and saying how much you love, like love bombing me in front of everyone. And then when, in quiet other moments, it's not the same. That I do not like.
Did I ever give you love bombs?
No. In fact, it's
What's
hilarious.
A love bomb? Just an explosion of love.
Love bombing someone. You tell them how much you love them and need them because you're actually trying to get something from them. That love bombing is manipulative, I think.
Love bombing?
Andy, have you heard of love bombing?
Is this a thing?
It is a phrase. Yeah.
Oh.
It's not a good one.
It's not.
No.
It's manipulative.
What is love bombing?
You overwhelm
a show of love for an audience.
Showering of affection. So this way everybody is kind of just like, oh, wow, he really, you're doing too much.
You're doing it.
And you're doing it because you want people to say you're a good guy. Like, see how much I love my wife.
Yeah.
See how much I'm a good husband. Like, so it ends up being narcissistic. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to necessarily see in the moment because you're feeling the love bomb.
Yes.
But if you can see past and through the love bomb, it's actually not a good thing.
Yeah. Wait a minute. So in the moment, you fall for the love bomb.
Well, some people do. Not everyone.
Okay.
I mean,
have I given you a love bomb?
You have not. And I don't need you to.
Really?
No, it's all the little small things that no one sees that for me are important.
Look, we're in a room that our faces are on the screens and it says Amy and T.J. That's a pretty big love bomb. How much more of a declaration do I need? I signed a contract with you. You signed on the top, I signed on the... I mean...
Have I ever love bombed you?
No. Not a love missile, not a love firecracker. It wasn't
a sparkler? How about a love sparkler?
Okay, that's okay. All right.
Sparklers.
God, you are just the gift that keeps on giving. I love it. But I'm going to finish with Trista because she finished her post with this line. Quote, after all, nervous breakdowns and separations require much needed rest and relaxation. Like, that's almost, she's messing with us.
Yes, I appreciate that. Her. I think if you can turn anything into a little bit of humor, I'm on board. I think that's how we get through most of life's crap, is laughing. And if you can laugh about it, she's ahead of the game.
But this was something that Andy, now our producer, sent us. He came up with a list of questions. I mean, he sits in here oftentimes. He listens to, look, if y'all don't know, Andy hears all the podcasts, but he hears a lot of stuff that happens before and after.
It's true.
With Being Robot. He sees us as a couple and as colleagues day in, day out. So he actually he was curious about what it's like to, I guess, try to be a couple, try to maintain a relationship in the public eye. It's hard enough in private. But Andy, you go ahead. You had some things that were kind of thought-provoking. We don't have the answers to them yet, but we're waiting for you to put us on the spot with it.
Yeah, so one of them that I had was, what is it about relationships in the public eye that make it difficult? Like, what do people not understand?
I think the hard part is knowing that everyone's commenting on what you do, what you say, how you look at each other. I think just knowing that you're being scrutinized every time you go out or anytime you post anything is tough to always try to make sure that, I want to be living our truth and be able to be free to be us without worrying what other people are thinking about us being us. So it's a little tricky to get that out of your head and to just really live and not live wondering what people are saying, thinking, writing. All of that.
I don't know. I don't think I want people to understand. I think it's just that every single thing you go through in your relationship, we go through in ours. That's getting up in the morning, what you got to eat, who does laundry, who's taking the kids, every single thing we are dealing with like everybody else. It's just the added part of that sometimes that it feels awful to try to fake a relationship in both ways. And what I mean by that, I have tried to put on to make sure the public had the impression that things were going good in my relationship. But now things are going great in my relationship, and I'm now making sure I don't let the public know that. Because it seems like in our relationship, folks are rooting for you, or they're rooting against you, or they have some problem. We talked about shame here. Like, we were for so long like made to feel shame for our relationship. So it's weird to be in a wonderful place and not want people to know it because you're worried about what they're going to say about you actually being happy. And that seems stupid as hell, but
yeah.
No.
Last season, millions tuned into the Betrayal podcast to hear a shocking story of deception. I'm Andrea Gunning, and now we're sharing an all-new story of betrayal. Stacy thought she had the perfect husband. Doctor, father, family man. It was the perfect cover for Justin Rutherford to hide behind.
They led me into the house, and I mean, it was like a movie. He was sitting at our kitchen table. The cops were guarding him.
Stacy learned how far her husband would go to save himself.
I slept with a loaded gun next to my bed.
He did not just say, I wish he was dead. He actually gave details and explained different scenarios on how to kill him.
He, to me, is scarier than Jeffrey Dahmer.
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
When the Taliban banned music in Afghanistan, millions were plunged into silence. Radios were smashed, cassettes burned. You could be beaten or jailed or killed for breaking the rules. And yet, Afghans did it anyway. This is the story of how a group of people brought music back to Afghanistan by creating their own version of American Idol. The danger they endured.
They said my head should be cut off.
The joy they brought to the nation.
You're free completely. No one is there to destroy you.
I'm John Legend. Listen to Afghan Star on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, I'm Melissa Fumero.
And I'm Stephanie Beatriz. You may know us from television.
9-9.
And now we're here with our very own podcast, More Better with Stephanie and Melissa.
We've known each other for thousands of years.
And we've been through it all together.
And we are totally killing it. We are literally the best.
No notes. Life is great.
None of that was true. JK. Join us on our excellent adventure as we take on topics like listening to yourself. There were a lot of red flags, and it did take me 8 years to get there, but I got there.
The challenge of self-care. This is important because now you're about to be a mom of 2 kids.
And making friends as an adult. We're going to share our struggles. Just white-knuckling through life, babe. We're going to speak to experts.
And we're going to share everything we learn with you.
Listen to More Better with Stephanie and Melissa as part of the Michael Duda Podcast Network, available on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So off of that, how much weight do you guys place on social media in your relationship? And is it important to actually post the ones you love?
So I've struggled with this because obviously we've got this podcast and our relationship is on display professionally. And then obviously we've got our personal moments. And so I haven't figured it out. Like, I don't want to post too much about what we do privately, but sometimes I do want to share it. So I haven't figured it out yet because I also don't want to be annoying. Like, look at us smiling, look at us hugging, look at us kissing. I mean, I think most people get annoyed. It's funny. People, it's called unfollow. Like, you can unfollow anyone who gets annoying, but I see other people who are annoying and I'm like, I don't want to be like that. So I don't know what the right answer is. You don't really do any of that.
Well, I'm looking for the right answer, but that was a month ago. I have not posted anything with you on Instagram for a month. And I'm with you all day, every day.
Yeah.
Haven't posted a single thing. And the last, I'm trying to find the last thing I posted that was just personal. I'm looking at, you see, hear the sound here. It was a video.
Sounds like me on my phone.
It was in January.
Wow.
Like everything else had to do with the podcast. We're doing something or going to an event, but I haven't just posted about the two of us. And again, a lot of that does, unfortunately, have to do with you worry about the support you get when you start dating somebody. You worried about your mom going to support it, your sister, your kids, or something else. We had to deal with all of that. And now we sit here completely free of any of that, but concerned about being accepted outside of our family.
Right.
We're worried about being accepted by the public and followers and all these and I hate. I've admitted it, but I hate admitting it. It sucks. But I'm sitting here with this woman I love. I sit next to her every day. I declare it several times a day. And anytime we do a podcast, I'm usually declaring it publicly. So it's not really much of a confusion about where I stand with you. But for some reason,
what are you trying to hide? The private picture?
I don't know.
Like, right?
What am I? It's silly.
Well, you don't want to look like you're trying to prove something, right? Or like you're doing something just for show. Yeah, but if you just try to keep it authentic, I guess let people decide what they want to think because they're going to anyway, regardless.
I'm glad you buttoned it up with that at the end because last time we let people think what they wanted to think. Things ain't go so well.
No.
Okay,
just off the heels of that, are you going to follow her on Instagram? Because I know you only have the one follower rule.
What? Andy, we were doing so well. Why you had to bring up old shit?
I haven't rolled my eyes at you in a long time, but I just rolled my eyes at you. I'm sorry.
For this dude.
I know.
I haven't given any more thought. Andy.
Which means no.
I haven't given any more thought.
The next question I have is, when it comes to reading about yourself in the press, what can that do to a relationship, and can it cause distrust?
I'll let you take the rest. I'll only mention this because it just happened the other day that I don't even know what we were. I think we were getting ready for a podcast, but I was asking something about articles, something in the past I needed something, some silly headlines from the past that were ridiculous. And you were looking them up and you sent me a screen grab of an article. And my response to Robach was, sweetheart, please don't send me any images of the articles. I do not read and look at anything press-wise when it comes to me and us. Not a single thing. To the point that she just given me a screen grab with a headline. I said, hey, baby, remember? And I'm just, that's how I am. So when it comes to your question is, that's where I am.
Yeah, it is triggering, I think, because I could have put the headline in there and you would have been okay because you just asked for some ridiculous headlines. But to see our pictures, it starts, you actually feel, I go right back to feeling my chest tightens. You're worried about what they're saying. You start getting in your head about what the reaction is, and then you start overthinking things. So I agree. And I always say, like, okay, I can look and I'll be okay. But then I realize, if I'm being honest, 30 minutes later, an hour later, I feel a heaviness. I feel the weight of it. I feel I don't like knowing that people think one way about me or one way about him, and it's divisive. I mean, it's not all like that, but yes, when I do read those things, it does affect me. I've tried really hard not to. I've a couple of times have fallen off the wagon, so to speak, and I've read some of the comments, and I've always regretted it. Like, I regret it every time. It's not helpful, and I'm giving away not just my power, but our power, because we know who we are, and we know what we've done to build where we are in our lives together, and nothing that anyone can say should change that. So but it does affect us and me.
I'm going to post about you today.
Are you? You're going to love bomb me?
You just ruined it. I had something in mind. Now okay, I got to rethink this thing.
My last question was, when it comes to your privacy in the public eye, what boundaries are necessary to set with your partner beforehand?
we have always, neither one of us have ever posted a picture without the other person giving approval. Just for that reason, I think that's a very important boundary, to not just, think that I can put whatever I want up about you or about us and not have it affect us. So I think we just need to always be on the same page with that. And privacy-wise, I think the same goes with having conversations, just with anybody. Forget social media, forget I don't talk about, if we have a disagreement, I don't go call someone, I don't go call my mom, we work it out together. And I think that's an important boundary, whether you're a public couple or a private couple. I think, that matters, that trust matters.
I think that's right. I was thinking of a situation, I think it had to do with Nikki. We was talking about keeping a relationship private. Anytime I have heard that there was someone outside of the two of us was aware of before I was, that's the only boundary. Social media wise, we just don't have that issue. But as far as boundaries
for privacy,
I think we're on the same page there. We have gotten into, I hate to give this away because some member of the paparazzi is going to figure it out. But we've said this when it comes to privacy. With the weather's nice now, we've gone out and we start to go to certain restaurants and sit outside, enjoy the weather. We sit now in places we never would have sat a year ago.
No.
Like on full display. Like anybody, and people are constantly stopping us. They want to say hello. They want to take pictures and all kinds of stuff. But we absolutely now, when it comes to privacy, at least being out, that's not revealing something intimate about what's going on at home, but at least as far as being seen, being spotted, being together with whatever we're doing, we're better about that than we have ever been.
Oh, it's just nice. I think to not have been able to do that, or to not feel free to do that for definitely for a full year, I am so much more appreciative of just being able to sit out in the sun and, be out in public in an open space. Like that was no way could we have done
crazy.
That, right? So it's just funny how you get that perspective of how appreciative we are to just have that moment. And people have been kind, and anyone who does come up, maybe they ask for a picture, but they've been really cool. You know what we don't like? I think this is anybody could. This is, but this is actually, I think about how I was maybe if I spotted somebody who I liked or a celebrity. Like we appreciate anyone who wants to come up and say, hey, we love you guys, or we listen to your podcast, or we're rooting for you. And if they say, would you mind if I got a picture? We'll always say yes. We didn't before. A year ago, we did not feel comfortable saying that, but now we'll always say yes, like always. What we don't like is when people surreptitiously, is that how you say it? Take a picture and think we can't see them doing it. Like, I don't like feeling like I'm in an aquarium or I'm on display to the point where you're going to just take a picture of me, like, without me knowing. And because we can almost always see it, by the way. And we'd always rather someone come up and say hi and take the picture with us, with our consent. Yes?
No, we have absolutely left places.
Mm-hmm.
We have walked out of restaurants. Mm-hmm. We have changed train cars. We have done a lot of things to get away from folks who were behaving in that way. And look, we don't know if they got ill intent or not, but we have had people who've done that before, and they did have ill intent, and it caused serious problems in our relationships, in our in a lot of stuff. So we've learned.
I think people think that they're respecting our privacy by not coming up to us. I actually think they might think, I don't want to bother them, but I want a picture. I would every time rather you come ask for the picture. Every time.
All right, you heard it here, folks. Sydney, Andy, I'm going to report back next week. She got into a fight on the train because somebody asked for a picture.
No.
You said ask.
Yes. No. Oh, it's always more polite to ask. And I think it's not an invasion of privacy if you're saying something kind. But to do it without us realizing it, or to do it when you think we're not looking, that actually is something that we don't prefer.
We will leave you, though, on this one with a ridiculous movie recommendation.
Oh, yes.
You could tell. She's
so excited about this.
Very excited. Go ahead. Give it to him, Ropes.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, wait. So first I'll give you the name of the name of the movie. It's called There's Something in the Barn.
Yes. Wonderful name. I mean, you're curious. You're like,
something in the barn.
There's something in the barn.
Now, imagine an American family moving to Norway because he's inherited a home that his uncle gave him. Okay, so that's where it begins. But what's in the barn is what makes it so great. Because you might be thinking it's some, haunted barn. Well, not exactly. Should we tell them?
No, we shouldn't.
Okay.
Horror comedy, right? It was a horror comedy.
Absolutely horror comedy.
Okay.
And you just have to, it's funny, okay? And you just have to be willing to laugh at this. But I will argue the writing is spectacular.
It is. It's good.
They're making fun of Americans and Norwegians all in one time, and then the folklore that is a huge part of Norway. But I just thought it was brilliantly done. A lot of physical comedy that's supposed to be horror, but it's also comedy. I mean, I just cannot say enough good things about this movie. I want to watch it again. We actually
context.
We watched it at 2:30 in the morning.
There you go. No, not just because we were up, but we'd been up, but we had passed out and we woke up.
Yep.
At 2 in the morning.
Yep.
It's like, let's put a movie on.
We
found that one and it delivered at 2:30. We stayed up till 4 watching this movie.
Well, what happened is I think I had to get up at 4 a.m. with you. So by the time 8:30 rolled around, I was asleep. And then I woke up at 2:30 fully refreshed. And so I was like, let's watch a movie.
Sweetheart, why'd you turn negative all of a sudden? Why did you have to put all of our business out there? And didn't we talk about keeping some things private?
Well, everyone knows you're a very early riser, and sometimes you're even earlier than others. And then...
Sweetheart, we had a good, nice ending to the show. Here's a movie recommendation. It's funny. You'll have a good time. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm with this asshole that likes to wake up at 4, and so I might as well. Jeez. Okay, folks, follow us at Amy and T.J. Podcast. We got to go work something out privately. See ya.
Last season, millions tuned into the Betrayal podcast to hear a shocking story of deception. I'm Andrea Gunning, and now we're sharing an all-new story of betrayal. Justin Rutherford. Doctor, father, family man. It was the perfect cover to hide behind.
Detective Weaver said, "I'm sure you know why we're here." I was like, what in the world is going on?
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is the story of how a group of people brought music back to Afghanistan by creating their own version of American Idol. The joy they brought to the nation.
You're free completely. No one is there to destroy you.
The danger they endured.
They said my head should be cut off.
I'm John Legend. Listen to Afghan Star on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
More better. Hey, I'm Melissa Fumero. And I'm Stephanie Beatriz. You may know us from television.
9-9.
And now we're here with our very own podcast, More Better with Stephanie and Melissa. Join us as we take on topics like listening to yourself, the challenge of self-care, and making friends as an adult. We're going to share our struggles. We're going to speak to experts. And we're going to share everything we learn with you. Listen to More Better with Stephanie and Melissa on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.